Welcome to On the Edge with Deneen Dias. Today, my guest is Amy Vetter from the B Method Institute. Amy, we've worked together for years. Thank you so much for joining me. If you can introduce yourself and share a little bit about your background.
Sure, I'm happy to be here and thanks for having me. So I own a company called the B3 Method Institute. It stands for Business Plus Balance Equals Bliss. And I am a CPA and also a yogi and technologist, and I bring it all together in what I teach and work with as far as accounting practices, and also just bringing mindfulness and human connection through the intersection of technology. So we're here today to talk about technology and how it can really be this gift of time for you if you set it up correctly for your advisory practice. But we also have to think about the human side. Technology can only do so much unless we think about what is the human impact as well and how we design for that.
Great. And I love your background. I mean, we've worked together probably over the last 10 years, and you had your own firm. You were a QuickBooks Pro advisor, so you've experienced that. Then you've worked at technology companies like Sage Intacct and Xero, so you've done that. And then you went off and started your own consulting practice and started your own yoga studio. And so you've got such a rich background, and you've talked to so many firms through the years. But what I'd like to focus on for the next 30 minutes is my favorite topic, which is building a CAS practice. You and I have worked with hundreds of firms in that capacity throughout the years. So I was super, super excited when I saw that you launched the Client Advisory Services Practice Roadmap. And I'd love for you to kind of share with everybody what you're doing there, what you're helping firms do there.
Sure. So for years, I mean, like Deneen said, I've been helping practices and a lot of bigger accounting practices where I go in and consult with them and help them build a business strategy for really putting together their client advisory services practice. And I wrote a book called the Integrative Advisory Services Book about becoming a cherished advisor. So this is, we are called trusted advisor, but this was a term that I coined of becoming cherished because we have to earn being cherished. It's something that through our relationships really glues that whole client experience when we become cherished with the client. And so I wrote a book about that, really put all of these years of consulting together, plus having owned my own advisory services practice on my own and was a partner in a CPA firm doing it as well. And over the last couple of years have converted that into a merger between e-learning and group coaching to put your roadmap plan together of creating an advisory services practice. And this really fits all size practices where we work in a group format and helps you to really build that foundation of an advisory service practice. I wish I had had something like this when I started because, my background was audit. And I think a lot of people come from different backgrounds and think, we're told to become advisors over and over and over.
Right.
But we're not really clear on what that means. And it's very different than running an audit practice or a tax practice. This is very entrepreneurial. And if you set the right foundation in place and you take the time and make the investment of time, this can really create the scalability that you need into the future.
I agree. And I know it's a struggle for firms to build out a new revenue source. It's a new part of the practice, or some firms are making the shift and solely for focusing on this new part of the practice, but it's not easy. And I speak a lot on how to build CAS, and the feedback that I've gotten is, Deneen, you make it sound so easy. And we know that because it's so different than tax and audit, right, that firms really struggle, and I don't think they really always realize that they have to have a dedicated leader, they have to think through their people, they have to think through different pricing, they have to look at technology. And so it's very, very different, which is why I'm excited that you have this blended learning coaching type of workshop. What I'd like to hear from you, because you and I have talked about this, is you're finding typically three different types of person that's signing up to work with you. I can quickly outline the three, and then if you can kind of go through the different personality types or the different ways that you're seeing firms approach this. Because as we've talked, I think the first is you're working with somebody within a firm that's not happy because they have the vision, they have the passion, they're learning about how to build CAS, but they're stuck at a traditional practice. And so they're thinking about going off on their own. I've talked to a lot of those people out through the years. The second is somebody that's at the firm that is building it and they're loving building it, but it's a new revenue source and they still need help on how to make this profitable quickly. And then the third is the owner of a firm that's trying to shift their firm and is having struggles making the shift. So those are what you've told me and I've worked with tend to be the three types of people that you're working with. And what I love about your program is you're really helping them put together a business plan. And so, each person might have different goals or challenges, but if you can kind of talk through the three different types of firms and how you're helping each one build that plan to build a profitable CAS practice.
Sure. So I think there's a number of people, advisory services has been talked about for, probably 15 years. This is, the way to go with your practice. But I think, when we start out, like that first type of person that starts out creating a business, we get away from why we're creating the business. So, because once we start creating a business and we don't have a salary and all of those things, then we start getting panicked to take any client that comes in. And oftentimes, we're either working in industries that we don't enjoy, or taking on the work that we used to do, like tax or audit, because that might come easier for us or more, recurring while we're trying to build up to this advisory services, or take clients we just don't like just because they're going to pay us. And so this really is a mindset shift. And so I do have people come either that or are in, have a salary job right now, want to kind of do this as a side hustle to see if it will work for them, or people that have taken the leap, that want to do it, but really don't have the checklist, of what they need to think about to do it. And so for those people, what's great about, being in that position is you're at a blank slate.
Right.
And it's really important to think about the types of clients and be really intentional about what you're going to do. And I think, that's one of the hardest things to do, because it's very hard to turn away money.
Right.
But if you take up that space, then you don't have that space to create for the clients that you do want.
Right.
And so when you're thinking about your business plan, it's really important. And we spend a lot of time on this for all three of those types of people, but that you're really thinking about who you want as clients and making sure that the client, you're not just interviewing the client for them to hire you, but you're also interviewing the client. Do they fit the type of clients that you want to work with and the type of work that you want to do?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I used to say the quickest way to build a CAS practice profitably is to say no. Because you've got to say no. If you're getting leads from your partners that don't really understand what you're doing, no, that's not what I'm doing. I'm not doing after the fact bookkeeping. No. Right. Or if it's a type of vertical where you can't go really deep and you don't know how to advise them and look at benchmarking and trends, say no, you're not the type of client that I service the best. And if you can stay laser focused on the right type of client and the right type of work, then the best way to do that is to say no to the wrong ones. But to your point, you don't want to say no to work. And so then through the years, I see firms that are making the shift starting to then have to offboard the wrong clients. And then that's painful. And that can be
Hmm.
sort of a, time suck, where if you can say no from the beginning, so that allows your team to grow with the right type of clients, then you're off to the races a lot quicker.
Exactly. And that really is that second type of person that is trying to fix
Yeah.
the practice that they're in, is that, whether you're within an accounting firm or have already started this type of practice, and you're like, I'm too stressed out, I'm working too hard, we're not making the money that we thought we were going to make, and I haven't really stepped back to think about the business. you know, One of the struggles that I see is that we go advise our clients to do business plans and to work on their business and not in the business. And as accountants, we're not always the best
Yeah.
at doing that because we have so many deadlines and trying to keep up with the work. But a lot of times what happens is, you know, when I have consulted with firms, is everyone will kind of blame the outside of why they're in the situation they're in. And what it really takes is dedication of
Yeah.
time. And, you know, you can make time for a new client and fit that into your schedule. So you got to look at this as your new client is your business, and
Great.
you are actually scheduling time to work on your business. And part of working on your business is, in order for you to get the clients that you want, you have to think about, what is the technology that I'm going to use to serve that type of client so that I
Right.
can make my business scalable. And this is where the intersection of technology and the human side come in, is that if I am going to put technology in place, that's to do the heavy lifting so
Right.
that I can spend more time with the client and be that true cherished advisor.
And that's, I see that a lot here at Botkeeper, because that's really, no one else is solving that capacity problem the way that we are. And really, we give firms a lift. So the bookkeepers can do the work they love to do, which is talking with their clients. They don't have their head down trying to get all the information and compile the information. We free them up. But the firms that we're working with, the ones that are always working on their business plan, the ones that are always working on their strategy, and the ones that are always putting processes in place are the ones we help the quickest and really see the lift from us the fastest. It's the firms that are drowning that come to us, but then they can't dedicate resources to even get their clients onboarded to free them up, is where we see firms struggle. So having that leader that's process oriented, that's okay hitting the pause button to spend a little time to save a lot of time down the road, is crucial for success. And so I'm glad to hear that's part of your workshop, because it's where a lot of firms do really struggle.
Yeah, and I think this is what makes it different from tax or audit, is thinking about what the engagement, the customer experience is going to be with that client. And it's not just about preparing a financial statement and giving
Right.
it back. It is the conversation, it's getting to know their business, it's making sure you're priced right so
Right.
that you do have that value pricing built in to do the analytics and things that you want, and really take advantage of the technology that's available so that you're not spending hours in Excel or collecting documents, that the technology does that heavy lifting so that you can spend time asking questions, reaching out to other people at the client, and so forth, to really explain what's happening in the business. And that's when you become a strategic partner. And that client can't imagine not
Right.
having you as their accountant, because you're delivering something that's so different than what they're used to from their accountant.
Right.
And this is really, the third one that we talked about is, you're a leader in an accounting firm that has been tasked to do the client advisory services practice. And a lot of times, what I see again is really a similar issue, is that a plan hasn't been put in place. And so we go out with marketing right away without
Right.
knowing why we're doing what we're doing, who we want to serve, and how we're going to do it. And so what happens is, like you said, is, people start referring things in the firm, or you take whatever client you can to justify the practice instead of putting together a plan and
Right.
saying, you know what, don't expect revenue for this time.
Right.
Like, we need a business discussion on when revenue will come in, how many clients we expect by what time, so that we can get this foundation in place. And the clients, as you know, all of you probably know on this call is, or listening to this, that we do not have a client shortage in
Right.
advisory
Right.
services. We have a issue of having the capacity to deliver the work the way that we want to deliver it, and not stressing ourselves out. And so, or stressing the people out that work for
Yeah.
us as well,
Right.
right? And
Uh-oh. I can't hear you.
is that we want to
You're
make
back.
sure that we are delivering the type of business practice that people want to work at,
Right.
and clients want to work with us at the end of the day, because we're giving them the time that they want, and we're not putting pressure on our staff to get more work done than they have capacity for. And we're using technology to take some of that work off their shoulders so that they're less stressed, but it's not that they're
Right.
not doing work, it's they're doing work in a way that's more valuable to the client.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's the number one thing that I hear from firms is they're turning business away. And I've just never heard of businesses turning business away. And so there is a real shortage of talent. There's the war for talent. Your good talent's getting poached. Talent's burnt out. They're leaving the profession, right? Because they're so burnt. And all of them, what they care about the most is their customer. They went into this business because they care about businesses. They care about the customer. And so finding tools like Botkeeper that can allow them to breathe and then say yes to new business because they've got technology that's sort of their engine. But what I hear, especially and that third bucket, right, where there's business owners, they're looking to shift into this, where they're realizing they're probably further along in their journey and they're realizing that they don't love their business. They don't want to do tax anymore, or they don't want to do audit anymore, and they really want to do the business advisory, but they have a team that maybe doesn't get the vision, right? And they're not explaining to the team necessarily getting the buy-in right from the people. And if they add and maybe you can speak to that, right, if they help
Mm-hmm.
the team builds it together and everybody's aligned and understanding, that's part of the strategy or plan that helps get them there faster. So what are you seeing in that regard?
Yeah, one of the areas that I find can get in the way of progress is a push down approach. So, a push down approach means that you, as the leader, is going to develop this whole strategy by yourself, this whole plan by yourself, and not involve any of, if you have staff people in the process. And so, when that happens, people start putting their heels in the sand. It creates
Right.
fear. And so, this is the mindfulness side of being a leader, right? Like, maybe we don't want to do the, slow down to work with everybody, but if we don't, it will fail, because,
Right.
or we'll lose those people, and then it's going to take us even longer to move forward. So it is human nature to be fearful of change. And so if you,
Right.
as a leader, going in and saying, I see the writing on the wall, I know if I automate this, I know if I learn how to deliver this client experience in a different way and price this differently, we're going to do better. But the people that work for you, they only know one way of
Right.
doing things. And so if you don't then say to them, I want to involve you as we are researching different tools and get your feedback, because this is the stuff you're going to work in every single day.
Yeah.
And so I want you to be happy in what you're working with. And then they're going to be learning new things, right? Like, this whole client experience is different than maybe what they were doing before, where they were maybe strictly doing data entry and not interacting with the client all that much, where you might need them to start doing analysis or review dashboards and things and so forth. And so with that, then it's really, really important that through this process, you're nurturing them through, and they feel like, oh, you have their back. Like, I am going
Right.
to give you the education you need, or the
Right.
time you need to learn, or to shadow me with clients, and it'll be non-billable, but the investment is worth over time to making these people, for the long-term result. And then I always go back to compensation too, is
Yeah.
how you're going to incentivize the people that work for you to behave in the way that you want them to behave, and to also see the game, like as you're doing better as a business, they are doing better and feel like they're a part of the whole progress of
Yeah.
what's
I think that's crucial, Amy. I mean, you just said you touched on so many key things. That's really crucial, because that's a lot of what we hear is there's just fear, the fear of change. They don't understand why they have to change. They've done it the same way for so long, and now you're bringing in AI that's going to replace me. And that's not the truth. AI doesn't replace the human. It actually, all the research, because I research this a lot, shows that humans are happier when you can automate the mundane things that they don't, it's time consuming, right? And so some of this talent is going to go kicking and screaming to a place that they end up loving. They end up loving talking to the customer and helping their customers boom and grow and really having those conversations with the customer. But having them be part of the decision making and incentivizing them to bring in new technology, right, to uncover new tools, then you get the shift that starts happening faster. And so, how are you helping firms have happier employees?
well, part of it is, in this process, when they see that their feedback is taken
Right.
and you hear them. And one thing about feedback, which I think, uh, you know, many leaders can not ask for feedback because they're like, I'm not going to change what I'm doing. So it doesn't mean that you have to action everything someone says they want. But what it does mean is being more transparent and saying, "Oh, I hear what you're saying. This is why we do it this way. And maybe for that, pain point, I can see shifting this piece." So it may not be the whole thing that you have to shift in
Right.
order to meet in the middle to understand what someone's daily life is. And I know what's really hard for leaders, and I've worked with many in accounting firms, is getting this feedback. The real feedback from the staff is hard, because you're under so many demands that they don't realize, and investment dollars are what they are, and so forth. But the thing about pretending you don't hear it or blocking it doesn't mean people aren't talking about it,
Right.
or they're not going to quit. So it's very important to have these open conversations and be transparent when you need to. So we go through the whole process of how to involve, if you have staff people, how to involve them in the process. What's also really important is through the visioning process of putting together a business plan of the types of clients you want to work with, and um, what the technology would be in that industry or niche, so that you can serve those clients, is that you also have your business development people and marketing people
Yeah.
as part of the business planning process, because they have a whole different head
Right.
of way of thinking as well. And so when I work with smaller firms or even individuals that don't have employees or staff, one of the things you need to think about is when you're making an investment in a business, is what you're going to outsource. So maybe you're not going to hire somebody, but it is important to allocate money for a marketing budget, for maybe even if you're not strong with technology, like who would help you with hooking up all the technology, training you on that, possibly. And then also looking at, who's going to do the work. Is that going to be you? Is that going to be someone else? Or maybe you're going to do the work, but you can get a virtual assistant or someone to
Right.
be answering the sales calls. So like these little pieces of the business that you can offset so that it is actually doable for you to run
Right.
this practice. So it's not huge investments of money that this takes, but it is a huge investment of time.
Right.
But that upfront time is worth it long term for a
Right.
scalable and profitable practice.
Right. I agree. And I think to the three different business types, right? The person that has invested the time at the firm, but the firm just isn't supporting them, and they're feeling beaten down because I think the firm doesn't consider it to be a new revenue source, and they consider they're looking for immediate impact. They don't realize that they're building out a new revenue source. And anytime a firm typically builds out a new revenue source, they don't expect revenue for at least a year. But you have these leaders inside of a firm that are expected to immediately transform some current clients. And I would love to hear your perspective on that. Do you think it's new business that firms tend to be really successful at putting in new technology, new procedures, and new pricing? Or have you seen some firms successfully transition current clients?
So, so if you're within an accounting firm that has, tax services, maybe audit and so forth, that you're a full service firm that is spearheading this, one of the most important things is that you have a champion for this practice that is a partner level,
Right.
that is going to really speak up for this practice in the partner meetings, because else what happens is you don't know what's being said behind closed doors, and if it's the right reflection of that. Secondly, it's really important to have a business plan. Too many times, these are not successful because there is no business plan. And like you said, they have tax, they've done that, and then they
Right.
just ship this. And then what happens is during tax season, they're like, no, you can't be working on this. You got to be working on tax, which you can never build a business that way. You have to be 100% dedicated. But you have to feel empowered as the leader in
Right.
that practice to speak up for what that plan looks like, so that there's clear direction and you're updating the partners on a monthly basis of what is happening. To me, the most successful thing that you can do in an accounting practice is not go outside the firm,
I
is to
agree.
make it inside the firm. There's so much gold just sitting in that firm of
I
clients
agree.
that already trust the firm, that you
Right.
really don't have to go that far, but you do have to have a solution you're going to present, a process that you can communicate to your counterparts in tax,
Yep.
so that they feel comfortable referring those clients to you. And you also have to have the right compensation model at the end of the
That's
day
the key.
that
Yeah.
the partners are going to agree upon as work gets split between these different things. So if it's in a firm where everybody's eat what you kill, that's when these don't work, because
Yeah.
it has to be thinking like a corporation. And a corporation doesn't
Right.
think like, this is my business and I don't care what happens for the rest of the corporation. And when you're in an accounting firm, putting a practice like this, you can't be looking at utilization rates and all of those things you work with in tax. That's
That's
a
right.
totally different model. And you have to think about, how does this benefit the future of the firm, the
Of the
total
firm.
model of the firm, and compensation with partners is created in a different way so that it doesn't get in the way of this practice being successful.
Well, maybe I'm watching the time. We're at time. I feel like we could have done an hour, and I feel like we should do another session on just that. How firms need to revamp the compensation to transition to advisory. And a lot of firms are seeing that. Audit hasn't been as profitable, tax is a little bit more profitable, but client accounting has had 25 to 35% growth. And so, how do you compensate the audit and tax partners to really help grow what's growing? It's a challenge. So we're gonna have to save that for another day. I don't know. Before we go, Della, was there any questions for Amy?
There were no questions in the queue, but you can always feel free to put some in right now.
Yeah. Anybody have a quick question for Amy before we close out? Amy, I think the highlight of this session is you need a business plan. You need a business plan, no matter where you are within the firm. If you're, building this within the firm, looking to leave your firm, looking to change your firm to just the advisory, you really have to start with a plan, and you have to have your team a part of the process of building out the plan and rolling out the plan.
Absolutely. And so if you want to find out more information, I have a website, businessbalancebliss.com. That is the B3 Method Institute. Our next, we already are closed out for our summer course, but our next business planning session is on October. And we'll have registration open up in September for that. And even a free challenge of Love Your Clients. It's a 5-day challenge to really guide you through the process of keeping the clients you love and peacefully transitioning the ones you don't. So that one is there.
Yeah.
It's there for you as well. So
Great.
I'm, definitely available to help, or you can reach out on social media as well at Amy Vetter CPA on all social media channels.
Great. Thank you so much, Amy. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Bye-bye.